comes as a result of clear, positive direction in results and a clear path forward for Honda that's seen them way more competitive since the summer break. So I guess you're pleased that you're in this position now with the final round ahead.
Yes, of course. I mean, if you think the normal thinking style is that, of course, this would be changed. It means that we have done something that is positive. So there's no question mark on this. But I think we need those points and we need to achieve it. So, I mean, Valencia is always a difficult one because it's the last chance you have to shoot. I mean, it's your last possibility and people is trying hard. And if the weather stays like this and conditions are good, normally it's not easy. I mean, you have to be very precise to go in the qualify because here the first 3-4 corners are crucial for a race. So, yeah, 9 points that will not be easy, but of course it is the only target.
Last time out, just last weekend for Johan, the double DNF, obviously a huge frustration. We understand both related to the clutch. Is that the case? And what have Honda been trying? It's clear that there must have been something new you were trying to be an issue in both starts.
Well, there were some issues and I think because you asked me this on Sunday morning and I told you that it would happen again. And unfortunately it happened, so I want to say again that now we are pretty sure what was the problem and we think we know how to fix it.
On Tuesday, the first time for a lot of us to see the 2026 package. From what we've been hearing, sounds like it's another step forward. How optimistic are you that this new bike will again take Honda closer to the front?
As I said, I mean, we have always kept the same speech. I mean, we are trying to go, but step by step. I mean, don't expect massive changes. It has been like this through the year. Beginning of the year, we said we will improve after summer. We did it. So probably we will have a step Tuesday, but it's going to be step by step.
Well, it's great to see you this weekend, hopefully without those issues, as you say, and excited to see what you bring on Tuesday. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Thanks as always to HRC team manager Hervé Poncharal. Spargo on the Honda HRC testing machine was third fastest this morning with a 1:30.707. As mentioned, that top three, Miller, Ogura and Aleix Spargo, all ran a new front and rear tyre. Ralph Fernandez was on a new medium rear at the end of the session. Frankie Morbidelli in fifth, Alex Marquez in sixth, Pedro Cossi in eighth, and Fabio Di Antonio ninth fastest this morning. They were the only 4 riders in the top 10 that did not go out on a fresh rubber this morning.
Hervé Poncharal went off the racetrack at the end of this morning's session. This was his crash into turn 4. To say it's a pretty long list of riders who've made that mistake over the years across MotoGP and all Grand Prix classes. That was Poncharal session coming to an early end, which cost him the last 5 or 10 minutes of the session, and also cost him the opportunity for a practice start session at the end too. So certainly Poncharal was back to a certain extent, although at least before the crash he was in relatively good form earlier on this morning, just dropping out of the top 10.
It's easy to diagnose the cause of that particular spill for Poncharal. Just picking off the throttle as he tried to get some drive out of that turn forward, a bit of lean angle along the edge of the tyre and just taking a bit of weight off the front. And down he went, a bit of a repair job for the Grazzini Racing Mechanics air job. Fence doing his job brilliantly there in the background. Last time we were at the Ricardo Tormo circuit here in Valencia, Hervé Poncharal was the winner in Moto2. It capped off an absolutely sensational conclusion to 2023. And for the now 20-year-old, he became the second rider in Moto2 history to have 4 successive victories. That only happened once before in the first ever Moto2 campaign with Tony Elias all the way back in 2010. And it was that great first to form on the end of 23. It was just a couple of months later, in the early part of 2024, saw Ducati sign him up on a factory contract. And already a few murmurings inevitably, and so many top riders out of contract next year, looking for deals in 2027. Ponchalal's name has already been mentioned in dispatches with a possible seat alongside Marc Marquez in the factory Ducati squad beyond 26.
Well, it's clear Ducati saw a lot in Hervé Poncharal to sign him when they did, signed him before that 2024 season even got underway. Speaking to Davide Tardozzi yesterday, he did say that even Ducati have been surprised by Fermin Aldeguer and how quickly he has adapted to MotoGP. Once was already on a sprint podium behind the French Grand Prix around 6 of the season. He got back a little podium away to that day. Solely beat Marc Marquez to victory in Austria. And then, of course, took a spectacular maiden success in Indonesia. Running away the front of the field was Pedro Acosta, kept the rest of the field in his wake. Fermin Aldeguer, quite clearly the rookie of the year in MotoGP. It's only a very bright future ahead of him. Could still get himself up another place as high as 7th in the World Championship by the time we're done on Sunday afternoon.
An accolade as well, that victory in Mandalika, helping him become the second youngest ever MotoGP winner in history. Second only to a certain Marc Marquez. Great to see him back in action. It was a steady start this morning, as you would expect, having not seen a MotoGP machine since he was on his backside at turn 1 in the Mercedes sprint, suffering a broken right collarbone. And the reason why we only see Jorge Martin back in action after that Japanese Grand Prix is there was some rather serious muscle and ligament damage in that right shoulder. He is back though, which is the best news possible for Martin, and that fourth from the factory Aprilia team were a buoyant time though. Good vibes certainly down in the tree at the moment with Michael Beck second, fresh off the back of his second victory in Portimao last weekend.
Certainly good initial signs to see Jorge Martin out there on track this afternoon. He did say earlier on in the weekend, he said, if I'm in a position where I'm in pain or too much pain, I am prepared to stop. But Jorge Martin hasn't done that at this stage, having put in 18 laps in free practice 1 earlier on today, can only be a positive sign, although with every session comes greater physical exertion and greater fatigue, of course.
Well, it's been a record-breaking 2025 MotoGP World Championship. It began so many months ago, didn't it, the Chang International Circuit in Thailand in Buriram. And I recall our first special guest of 2025 was a certain Red Bull KTM Tech 3 boss, known by the name of Mr. Hervé Poncharal. Well, we started in perfect fashion in 2025, so let's not finish it in terms of our special guests as well, because I'm delighted to say once again on what is going to be a very, very emotional weekend. I'm sure there's probably not going to be a dry eye in the house in the Tech 3 garage on Sunday night, because Hervé is back with us ahead of his final Grand Prix as team owner of Tech 3, passes the baton to Gunther Steiner in 2026. Very, very welcome. How are we? How are the emotions with a couple of days remaining?
Thank you very much for having me. And it looked like, as you mentioned, the opening run in the Thailand Buriram was good yesterday. It seems to me that it was just a few days ago, and when I was with you commenting that session in Buriram, I was really not expecting to be leaving the paddock end of that season. I was not expecting to sell my team, and okay, many things have happened since last March, but a lot of emotion. We had a small party last night organized by Donna that was very emotional, and it's difficult to enjoy the weekend right now in Valencia, because I've got so many things in my head, in my heart, in my a lot of butterflies in my stomach, and to see all the people, how good they are, how nice they are, all the very special word they used to tell you, and I've never thought I was somebody special, but all these people make you feel I'm gonna miss them, and what they are telling me makes me mad and a bit proud too.
You're part of the MotoGP family, you're part of the furniture, you've been here for so long. I mean, how did it feel walking back into the paddock just this weekend, knowing it was going to be, as a team owner, of course, you're going to be you're not going to stop coming to see it, are you? But your last Grand Prix as a team owner, it must have been a bit of a strange feeling walking into the paddock yesterday for the final time.
Yeah, very strange feeling, I've been told and that, that would be effective 1st of January, so till the end of the year I'm still running Tech 3. But anyway, I've been sold to Gunther Steiner. He appointed Richard Coleman to be the team principal, so basically Richard is going to do what I'm doing next week. it's always the same, you know, you never really realize when you're on site when this is happening, and I think maybe next week or in 10 days time I will start to digest. The good thing is I'm going to be back at the workshop with the whole crew, and till the end of December I'm going to be there, you know, at to prepare, so to prepare 27. So the transition will be less difficult and less painful.
The flags out in sector 2. This signs it's Fernandez on the V4 powered new Yamaha YZR M1. Looks like Augusto taking the tumble down turn 6. He's A-OK. In the same company, so by Colin Downs to the back of his Augusto Fernandez, one of the first Hervé ex-riders. He walks away from this with a big cloud of dust being kicked up in front of Ayagura's track out of Aprilia.
Yeah, he had a decent morning, it's fair to say. Augusto Fernandez was up inside the top 10 earlier on a 31.0 for the Yamaha and their V4 pace, as you could expect. A lot quicker already this afternoon. Marco Bezzecchi, we didn't see much from this morning. He's already down to a 1:30.126. That is the fastest lap time of the day so far. Costa's matched that on a 30.1. We've got Ralph Fernandez and Mia close behind too. Osaka, Alex Marquez, Quattuaro rings. Bagnaya's already well into the mid-30s, already a second quicker than he was earlier on today.
Before we start doing some real reminiscing, let's kind of stay in the present and the not too distant past. We saw you at the start of 2025, we're now seeing you again at the end. How do you think it's gone in between rounds 1 and 22 for Tech 3 and also for KTM in general? What's your assessment of this year?
You know, I'm glad to start by the fact that the first thing that made me think that was maybe, you know, difficult to carry on and, you know, holding every, you know, was the financial difficulty that we went through last winter. I mean, not we, KTM went through last winter. And that was the start of the, you know, scratching my head and what's going to happen in EPP. And then Liberty Media took over. We didn't even know if KTM was going to be able to do the full season. I think KTM, together with the factory team and the team, we did really well because not only we were good, but great racing, what was very showing that in the past 16 was the best bike on the grid with the last weekend in Portimao, what he did both in the sprint and in the main race. Consider what was the feeling in the January, February, March. I think we did extremely well. I would like to really congratulate all the technicians and the team members involved in the two teams for their never give up attitude, for their always believing in the project. And even though financially we certainly not easy for Pete and his team, they managed to improve the bike, to develop the bike a lot. And if you look at the RCC, they did really well. So there is a non-stop working, pushing there. It was a very big pity for us to be, you know, the podium in Qatar with Hervé Poncharal. We were sure we were going to be able to repeat that. Unfortunately, in last week, there was a stupid crash in Germany, putting aside for the whole season. We managed to do a podium in Austria. Sprint race with Enia, we did the podium in Catalonia, you know, so I think clearly the KTM package is clearly very, very strong. You know, behind Ducati you got two main forces, which are Aprilia and KTM, depends on which track you are, but I'm very proud to have been part of that project, and I think we could end that weekend on a quite positive note.
Just looking actually at Marco Bezzecchi and Pedro Acosta together on circuit. They are actually our top two so far, nearly part of this afternoon's practice session. Bezzecchi has the advantage of 1:30.126, 600 exactly clear of Pedro Acosta. Shot that is, look at Acosta. Elbow and knee on the tarmac going through turn 1. Have you seen a change in him this year, Hervé? He said himself that he was getting very frustrated, his own personal ambitions, of course. Second season, everybody expected Pedro to be winning from the get-go. And I think he's sort of been able to run himself down a little bit, mature, particularly the second half of the season. And actually maturity has come with some better results. And really at the moment, he's got the talent, he just needs the tools underneath him.
Absolutely, you know. Last year, with the rookie, winning 9 podiums, that was really impressive. And he didn't go on racing, especially MotoGP Japan, I remember. And he was too impatient. He did quite a few mistakes, otherwise he would have been finishing easily top 4 or 5 in the championship. And I think this year he understood that the final ranking was very important. And you need to finish the race, not only to score points, but also to understand how the bike works, to give the right feedback to the engineers. And I think, although it's only his second year, although he's still very young, he's learned a lot. He's a much more mature rider now. He knows that if he has to go for top 5, yes.
That's Marco Bezzecchi, I think, who's trying to climb back on board that. It's Bezzecchi, second crash off the Apennine. He's your current leader on a 1:34.126, but Bezzecchi finds himself in the same gravel champ that Fermin Aldeguer was in this morning.
Tricky old corner, isn't that turn 4? You certainly so many times. Second gear under 100 kilometres an hour. So easy just to get caught out there. Here is Bezzecchi, yeah. Just washing the front out there as he goes into that fourth corner. He's been on circuit here for a good 3 or 4 laps, hasn't he, behind Acosta, as Jack just riding his headset. It's okay, Bezzecchi. Flashy on the MotoGP just does gnaw away the confidence a little bit.
Discussed Pedro Acosta earlier on. Of course, you touched upon Maverick Viñales' injury, which obviously cut his season short at such a bad time for him. What about Enea's 2025? Yes, would you have expected a little bit more progress from him than we've seen through the season? He's spoken in recent Grand Prix, and still, every time he rides a circuit on a Friday, it feels as if he's riding a KTM for the very first time. We often see him qualifying deep down the grid, but his race pace is still not gone anywhere, but just can't get himself up the grid.
Absolutely, you know, this is the big mystery. I think it was also a bit the same story, even though when he was riding Ducati. But really, the Friday is a very important day. Practice what we're pushing now is a crucial part of the weekend, and he never really managed to be direct to do. The rare time he managed to be a decent grid position, like in Catalonia where he was P9, he ended up on the podium. Last weekend, unfortunately, started very far down. He was involved in the Paul Espargaro, Morbidelli, and I can't remember who had been a big incident that bent his fairing, so he had to come back. But when you saw the pace he had when he was back on track, he was up in the race in Hervé. So this is impossible. He doesn't understand, nobody understands how he can be not taking advantage on fresh tires on one lap, and the speed he can have on the Sunday, you know, on a full race distance. But we all know that if you don't start in the top 9 of it, which are the top rows, it's almost mission impossible during the race. So every weekend we got the same, you know. We have a long phase on Friday, and we have a longer phase on Saturday morning. The sprint is a bit of a trial for the Sunday. We know that we will be able to score points on Sunday, but then on Sunday when you see the pace, the lap time, but unfortunately the position, which is so-so, you can only be disappointed and you think, okay, next race we are going to find a solution for this flying lap, but so far we never did.
Before Maverick's injury, I mean, obviously he was, for a long period in the first part of the championship, the strongest KTM rider. He was getting the best out of the RC16 package. Do you think it's fair to say, had he not had the injury, I mean, it's hindsight's on a thing, it's spots and maybes, but do you think we would have seen Maverick potentially win a Grand Prix had he not suffered the injury? Because he was looking so strong at times in that first part of the championship.
Yeah, as you said, if, so I don't want to be playing too much if and say things that, you know, will never happen, but he was so confident in himself. He was feeling so good on the bike, especially from USA, I would say, the race before Qatar. And he was pretty sure he was going to win some races, you know. But, you know, life has made it different. He couldn't race. Unfortunately, the injury that we thought was a very minor injury lasted for forever. It's still not 100% now, he's going, but on the left side, he doesn't have the same strength as on the right side, and it's a big disappointment really, because as you mentioned earlier in the season, he was the best KTM rider. We never thought that Pedro would catch back, but I think him and Pedro would have pushed each other, and we could have a much, I think, better KTM overall rhythm.
At the moment, Maverick is down in 21st place, 1:30.904. Top gun. Marco Bezzecchi, despite that little spill at turn 4 in factory input, still does lead this session, courtesy of his early 1:30.126. Closest challenger to him is Acosta, just 9 minutes deep inside the factory KTM garage.
This is Pedro Acosta skipping the rear tyre into turn 1. So spectacular to watch. You could watch Pedro Acosta around an empty circuit, still be entertained, but he's entertained us in recent Grand Prix with his attack and also his defence. He was doing his level best to try and keep Alex Marquez at bay in the sprint 6 days ago in Portimao. He's knocked on the door for so much of this season, and he'll be praying by the time 2025 is out on Sunday afternoon that door is finally open for him.
Quite frustrated there, nothing to the for the garage. Marco Bezzecchi probably saying to himself, silly mistake to be making that early on in the session. Really didn't have that for Brow in Portimao, as you say, last weekend, where he won pole position. A sprint podium behind Acosta and Alex Marquez before he rebounded on the Sunday to take a dominant start to finish the victory. So it was a bit quiet out on the circuit then, and before he'll get hectic late on with time attacks and all the riders pushing like crazy to get themselves in the Q2. Let's just have a little trip down memory lane, shall we? I'm going to put you on the spot here, very difficult, but what moments in what's been an incredible career, there's so many to pick from.
Performance, you know, I consider the first ever victory that we have in fact in 1986 with Dominique Saron. The second one, I think, is for sure when we won the title with our great fashion in Phillip Island, and my next to me holding my hand was Barry Sheen, so there was a lot to remember about that race. The third moment would be when we won the Moto2 race in Catalonia and Montmeló with our own bike that we built in the workshop in between 2 MotoGP races, won by Brian, a very big moment. And of course, the last one, not in order, but there are the 4. But what Miguel did in 2020, this victory in Austria, and maybe even more, the domination and the history Miguel and the victory both in Portugal was really amazing. And you know, on the Sunday night in Portimao 2020, I was with the whole top management from KTM, Red Bull, with Miguel. You know, we were sure that things were going to move forward. Sometime maybe just him in the world. You know, we were so happy, so sure about the future. And sometimes things doesn't go the way you think they were going to, but that were the 4 components of my life.
Well, that was a very quick recall. You've got so many great moments to achieve. I'm sure you've been asked this question quite a lot over the last few months.
Actually, I've been thinking, because I knew some people would ask me this question, and it's very difficult to pick up because altogether I've been almost 45 years here, you know. And when you're here for almost half a century, you can imagine how many people you met, how many situations you've been through, how many races you followed, how many riders you work with, and every single person, every single rider, every single bike, every single scene is special. So you can imagine everything we've been through. I'm sure if I ask you this question, you will also have quite a few stories to tell me.
So many people.
I'm quite glad that Mander was part of my team for 1 season, and this is something I'm really proud of also. And when I listen to you, when I see how good you are behind the microphone, I'm really proud.
You have to give you the 100 euros now.
No, you can hug me afterwards if you want, but I don't need any money.
I think we'll just accept the invitation of a hug afterwards. No, I'll accept an invitation to your new yacht with all the money you're getting from Gunterstein on the south of seas next year.
You don't know me. I'm not a yacht man. I'm more a kayak man than a yacht man. You know?
So the money does not come out of Gunterstein in swear jar, which is going to be every day that goes by. So many key people get to be part of the Tech3 story, the Hervé Poncharal story, whether it be riders, engineers, journalists and commentators who you've met over the years. One person I wanted to really ask you about, Guy Coulon, who has been there from the very beginning with you at Tech3. Without him, is there no Tech3?
I don't know if without him there would be Tech3, but without him we would not achieve what we achieved. And you know, the more I age, the more I told all the people who asked me when they want to open a company, to be a company, I said, never take a partner, do it yourself. Because if you do it with somebody, you're going to end up in a fight. And I think the only guy in the world who work with, I could live with, and I could decide without any confrontation. He could also be a fantastic partner. He's a fantastic human being. He loves technique, he loves racing like almost nothing else. And he's a super honest man. And yeah, without him, we don't have him the same. He owes him a lot. And what makes me really happy is we live at the same place. We're going to be friends forever. And you know what I love is when we go cycling in the morning together, when we share everything. So he's been a key man in my life, and he's going to remain even after retirement.
Yeah, an unbreakable bond, I think it's what's fair to say between you two. A combination of those like strawberries and cream.
I was in trouble.
There is one of your ex-riders who brought so much success back in the day. Miguel Oliveira, of course, an emotional weekend for Miguel too, as he says farewell to the MotoGP World Championship, off to the BMW World Superbike project next year. We saw actually a nice shot of you on the grid last weekend in Portimao, just with Miguel. I mean, it was
You made him cry, Herbert.
yes, a private conversation, but can you tell us a little bit about what you just said to Miguel? Of course, such a key component of your history.
You can imagine, you know, I love Miguel, and I just want to say that to him, thank you from the bottom of my heart. We did things that, you know, we will never forget. You are a great man, and for what you've done, good luck for the future. But Miguel is a very special person. Of course, with what he done as a rider, but also as a person, he's a fantastic person. He's a clever man, he has culture, you can talk about many different topics. And honestly, I'm disappointed because I thought he was going to do a lot better, you know. And I think he's quite unlucky with some injury, with maybe sometimes not the right choice. And that's it. But he's a very special person, and he's one of the riders I have enjoyed most working with.
Marco Bezzecchi still leads. He's just about head out, so as you can see on his second batch of Aprilia. Moving now to better at the moment at 130.126. Fabio Di Antonio starting to make forward progress. He's on fresh rubber at the moment, as you can see on that graphic there is Digia. That's helped him to a 130.237. Might get even quicker on this pro map as well, the Italian.
Watching Aleix Espargaro then, who's of course fulfilling his wildcard duties this weekend. Part of the Honda test team, as mentioned, and we'll reiterate, it was mentioned pre-session when Jack caught up with Alberto Puig. 9 points this weekend, and that's 9 points for the first Honda rider across the checkered flag in the sprint and the Grand Prix. That's not a collective across all 5 of them. 9 points is what they need to move up the concession level for next season. If they achieve that, then that will impact on the number of wildcards they have available to them. It will see the current lack of restrictions and engine development, of course, put back in place once again. They'll go back in line with the other manufacturers, without Yamaha, of course, in terms of their aero development too. So plenty up for grabs for Honda this weekend. Di Antonio has managed to wrap this Valencia circuit with exactly 90 seconds, and he now takes top spot away from Marco Bezzecchi.
He's been using those fresh soft tyres. His sector 2 has caught somebody else out. It's not another turn 4 crash, is it, for one of the riders out circuit? We'll try and find out exactly why the reason is for the sector 2 yellows. Certainly not Frankie Morbidelli at the moment, who has cleared that second sector. Blanky on a good lap as well. We might be getting closer to the 46 1 minutes. I agree. He's taking a couple of times. We do need him at the 46 and 1 2. Gian Antonio leading all the belly. Well, it's got down at turn 3, 4. At the end of his rookie season, what's been a bit of a roller coaster up and down campaign as it softness for rookies. There's been the big crashes, big results, few injuries as well. Gura looks relatively okay after its get off at turn 3.
Caught up with the bike there, isn't he? You could just see him behind the bike there into turn 3. First crash we've seen there over the course of the day. Gura has had some big ones in his rookie season, but at least we are pleased to report that Agura is back on his feet. Yes, it's been a big part of the Tech 3 story, hasn't it? Bringing rookies into MotoGP. So Miguel Oliveira is one of them who you mentioned. We've seen likes of Bradley Smith, Paul Espargaro, Pedro Acosta very recently brought into MotoGP.
But we have to blame him for bringing
Yes, is that something that you're especially proud of? Of course, I guess part of the Tech 3 identity, I guess, providing opportunities for young riders.
I was very happy. I would say, yeah, this is part of the identity, but also that was unusual organization with our manufacturer, because starting with Yamaha, and clearly the factory is always having the rider that are capable to fight for the championship, and normally the satellite operation or the independent operation, put it the way you want, is it to give a chance for your rider to show his level and eventually move to the factory in the following year. So we did that with Yamaha for many years. You cite, you mentioned quite a few names. It was exactly the same, because when we started with KTM, year 1 we were with Cyril and Emma. We kept on, having young riders like Raul Carnabel, like Remy Gardner, and last year with Pedro Acosta. And I have to say I like it a lot. I like it a lot because when you do a season like the one we did last year with Pedro, nobody expects a rookie coming from Moto2 to be fast and to beat his teammate. And when you do it, it's an incredible feeling. And also, when you have a rookie, he's listening to you, and you can have a proper, working together. Because as soon as the rider is year 3, he has so many people coming, so what he tells that you almost have no more interaction. So this is what I like to do. This is also what I really like about the Moto3 team. Because with the young riders, you have a real, communication. You have a real, relationship where you feel they are asking you, where, when you are with your rider, here with Maverick and they don't need much. So, yes, I like it a lot.
one of your star rookies from the past is the star performer on Friday afternoon here now. We've just seen Pedro Acosta with a new medium rear tyre fitted to his KTM. Be the first rider to plus the 90-second barrier in Valencia, 129.790. Obviously this year was a bit of a change in strategy with taking the experience of Maverick Vinales and Bastian. Would you not advise people to go style of Richard Coleman and KTM in general to perhaps go back to that model, that strategy of trying to pick up rookies, or what would your advice be?
Honestly, right now, the plan is the 2 years plan, but the 4 riders are signed for 25 and 26. Winter and Richard Coleman are going to run the team as it is, with DDR. But KTM is going to product. But them are 30 plus. Because in our sport, we all know, you know, in Europe we are finishing, but you're right. Remember how many races Valentino obviously won?
Fluid spitting out there of Fabio Quartararo's Yamaha. He's having a good look now. He's got the racetrack very sensibly into turn one. One would hope that there hasn't been a Yamaha exploration there on the main straight between turn 14 and turn one. You're having a good look down. You can see it spitting up from the onboard camera. I think Quartararo's saying he might now get some flag down.
He's saying the marshal there gets the flags out, pointing down the left-hand side of that factory Yamaha. He's urging the marshals to make sure that there's no further contamination. He's now going to try and push that right back to pit lane. Let's hope then that there's going to be no disruption to this session.
If he's pushing the bike back to the box like that, it thinks he can use that bike before the end of the session, so it mustn't be a big thing, I don't know.
The sixth in the session when he had that drama, Fabio Poncharal for 1:30.301. Now is the world champion then.
Just the right as we look for Quartararo. Looks potentially that's been backed out.
Mostly just into the left handlebar in that sort of area.
But for sure, if he's pushing like that to bring the bike back to the box, it mustn't be a big thing, I think.
Speaking about the future beyond 2026, it's great.
Look, for example, who are the two outstanding riders in Moto2 right now? You see, Morgado and Alonso. They're good. So, what I like in this job, in this sport, and what I like in being a team owner, having the possibility to pick up the rider you want, is to bargain with the risk. You know, when I took Perone last year, he was only doing ETC. Everybody told me, don't take him because he has to go to a proper Moto3, you know, junior championship before he will be
established time MotoGP without any question is Quartararo, who has made his way to the back of the factory Yamaha garage. They'll start the process of understanding exactly what happened to his numero uno riser that I won. On the straight, and once again is the Fabio Quartararo. In the general consensus, they have the current MotoGP grid. Marquez clearly, without any question, is the relevance. He's the reigning world champion. He's been superb on the factory Ducati, very, very close, natural talent-wise. Fabio Quartararo, Pedro Costa. And we're looking to the 2027 grid. Everybody keeps saying, oh, will Fabio Quartararo lead Yamaha? Will Pedro Costa lead KTM? And how difficult do those two factories have a job on their hands with those two superstar talents? Because they're ambitious, they're hungry for success. They'll not hesitate to look around the market, will they?
You know, it's I think Fabio clearly decided to believe in what Yamaha showed him and explained him, the whole project, when he signed 2 years ago, and now he's got another year, and will be for bike coming, so it's going to be up to him. But I read a sentence yesterday or the day before. He said, I have a lot of respect for Marc Marquez, who done a big money offer for a bike that, yeah, it looks like water coming out. And I'm sure, you know, if there is a clever team manager, and there are many clever team managers, Fabio must be on their list. I feel a lot of people think the only one on equal machinery that could eventually fight with Marc at the moment could be as I said, you know, guys like Pedro and Costa, Fermin, Aldeguer, competently, they are really the future because they are young, especially Pedro and Fermin, but also look at what's happening. I told you about the Tour Spa guys, but also when you see the incredible talent in the Pires, Uriarte,
crash. He was fourth fastest this morning as well. He's finishing right up there. Again, for Trackhouse Aprilia.
One Lear's just gone out. Yes, he has. You can now see on the screens on some brand new tyres. So we could see a first genuine attempt at a time attack from the Hondas. Currently 7th, 8th and 9th. Mir, Marini and Zarco. Top 10 at the moment, as you can see, Acosta, Di Gianantonio, Morbidelli, Bezzecchi, Ralph Fernandez, Quartararo, Mir, Marini, Zarco, Miller. Which leaves Alex Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia just outside that top 10. They both got mid-130s. Aldeguer also outside the top 10 himself. We haven't really seen it. He is now on brand new soft tyres, but hasn't pushed for a time attack just yet. Well, perhaps the surprise is at the moment Bagnaia, Alex Marquez and Fabio Quartararo. Change of weathers, and we'll sort of wait to see whether he's got one or two of the Yamahas available to him. He's ready to rejoin the action.
We've seen so many unbelievable single laps produced this year by Quartararo. We've seen most of the 25. Bagnaia on fresh rubber. He's in early time attack mode here. Bagnaia some very, very little handle. Who's such fond memories of this Valencia circuit. Twice he's been crowned MotoGP World Champion here in 2022 and in 2023. Bagnaia at this moment is 130.450 from the Italian.
Yes, as an outsider, how possible is it being for you? Is it happening for the rest of us to see the players of Pecco Bagnaia in 2025? Plus, when we spoke to you at the very first round of the season, we were all super excited for the head-to-head between Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. Never really materialised, did it?
It's really unprecedented, whatever we said. What a mystery. How to explain it? Especially when you see that. But clearly there is a lot which is planning in it. And I don't know what they got in the right mark. For me, even though the margin is less, it's still a bit back on track. And he knows his team, not every point there is no reason, no real reason. I don't understand.
How much you think it's the Marquez factor? Having a teammate like Mark who is just so strong in every aspect of the sport.
For sure, this has an impact because when you are having difficulties, even in the beginning, if it's small difficulties, when you're having a bit of some tough question mark in your head, this is the guy next door winning more condition fastest every session, and what you said is not the way. What I mean, I remember before when I was with Yamaha, there were 4 Yamaha. Valentino was winning every racing, was winning every championship. The other 3 riders were completely lost. And they were the same machinery, exactly. And when we were showing the data of Valentino to the other guy, they said, I just can't do that. And I think the same thing was happening with Honda. And for sure, to have a teammate like Marc Marquez doing what he was doing with the bike, it was a shock. And to be not the number one anymore, not be the one winning all the time, the one who has all the hope, and the fact is from you changed the whole game. You see Fabio Bagnaia,
11 Grand Prix wins Bagnaia had last year. Down to just the 2 this season. It's not even a given. It'll hold on to 4th place overall in the World Championship. Only 3 points clear of Pedro Acosta. Bagnaia has not actually finished a Grand Prix since that victory over in Motegi. 4 successive DNS for the first time since his rookie season all the way back in 2019. As I agree with a little bit like Marco Bezzecchi, he's had to pick himself up on 4th on the 3 in this session. He's doing a pretty good job in recovery mode right now, as Emilio Sam. He's up to 9th for the 130.313.
Three is currently up inside the top 10 with Ralph Mendes 6th and 4th. Juan Martin, he's 22nd at the moment. He's putting 13 laps, which is not a million miles away from what everyone else has done out there. The majority of them between sort of 12 and 18 laps at the moment. Martin at 30.8, he's a second off the pace right now.
Replay shot then for Costa. High profile forwards at that turn 4 here today. Further down the gear this morning, Marco Bezzecchi this afternoon. temperatures a little bit more ahead of Fabio Antonio and Frankie Morbidelli.
I think almost everybody is in the box now to change tires, so we are going to see in the next few minutes big change in the order and the classification. The good thing also is thanks to the hard work, the concession, and you know, everything that has been done by both Yamaha and Honda, you can see that they are coming now. And I'm quite sure 26 is going to see the 5 manufacturers a lot closer to what has been happening in 25. But I wouldn't bet on any brand to be the leading brand from 27, because they will almost start from scratch with a new technical rule. And I can tell you that everybody's going to be pretty ready, including Honda, Yamaha.
I wanted to ask you that. I'm not going to ask you the difference between when you first arrived in MotoGP to now, because it's a night and day difference. It's a completely different game, a completely different world. But now you are stepping away from the sport full time. I mean, how do you see the sport in its current state and where it's going in the future? I mean, these are exciting times, aren't they, for the MotoGP World Championship?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think, you know, when you tell me that, it gives me regret to leave now.
I'm sorry. You can stay. You're always welcome.
You don't understand to leave. No, but I think, you know, what the Liberty Media is going to bring, you know, they expect this to market the championship. The thing they've learned, what to do and what not to do in Formula 1, although we are not exactly the same, but they were things that are common. The good way they work together with Dorna, you know, leaving Dorna, who knows how to run the championship, and exchange with them are going to give all these things are going to give the manufacturers, the teams, and the sponsors more reason to come to be here. And for me, I see the MotoGP championship growing, and I think it will be more and more exciting because you have Ducati dominating the championship at the moment, but less and less and less. And I think from 2027, rider-wise, manufacturer-wise, everything is going to be so close. Clearly, the new tire manufacturer is going to play also some kind of you know, new. This is going to be a new factor. So I think the MotoGP Championship is having a really bright future ahead of it.
How was Hervé Poncharal, you know, spending his weekends? I guess you're still going to come to a few Grand Prix and come and see all of us. Well,
listening to you guys.
He's going to be his car.
yeah.
I'm going to be on my car. Putting on my phone. Honestly, you know, at the moment this is still a big shock to understand I'm going to be out of here, and I need to end the year, as I told you, to leave everything ready to go for first of direct to Richard, and afterwards I will have a few, let's say, months to settle the thing what I want to do. But for sure, MotoGP will be in my heart forever, and I will be following each single session, even in the middle of the night, once you will be in Australia, Indonesia, or anywhere else.
And before this session reaches its thrilling conclusion, when the time attack's coming in, we'll be focusing on that, of course. I'll just take this opportunity on behalf of MotoGP fans all around the world, in particular on the Dorna side, for all of the tireless work, the commitment, the dedication that you've put in to being such a key influential figure in the MotoGP World Championship, helping behind the scenes and in front of the cameras. You've always given the Golden Crews down the years your time and your energy. And also personally as well, Hervé. I mean, I've known you for 30 years. I came to this paddock for the first time in 1996. I was a very raw and fresh 22-year-old. I'm not sure how long I would have stayed around if it wasn't for people like you in the paddock, keeping an eye out for me, helping me learn, helping me develop. We were very, very close, as you mentioned, a few years ago. And got a father, I think it was almost like I had another father figure in the paddock with me as well. So all I can say from the bottom of my heart, and on behalf of so many other people in the paddock, and in particular fans all around the world who enjoyed seeing your success with the team at Tech 3. Thank you so much. And whatever is next for Mr. Hervé Poncharal, I'm sure it's going to be an exciting adventure, a great chapter, and we wish you all the very best. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt. You make me cry. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well,
Don't cry, just
I'll have my results haven't known you anywhere near as long, but I first came into this paddock in 2019 as a member of the social media team here at Dorna, and was scared to just go into any pit box, just didn't know anybody here. And I was doing some filming with Ike Lacorda, who was testing, of course, for the first time with yourself, and the person that opened their doors and welcomed me into the pit box was yourself. So you said, you know, Ike, welcome in this pit box. So yeah, in this paddock. So somebody can go Max comments and thank you for everything you've done for MotoGP. It will not be the same without you. Pedro Acosta, meanwhile, is going about his domination of this Valencia Grand Prix weekend. He's now put it to fresh size and extended his advantage to 0.6 of a second now. Acosta down to a 29.240. Jack Miller, this morning's pace setter, up to second.
You get the impression that Pedro Acosta really wants to win this final Grand Prix.
He ain't going on without a win.
No, he's so desperate to win. We're desperate to see him win because he's got this sort of bet with Danny Pedrosa about dyeing his hair orange if he wins the Grand Prix. I'm not sure if he will actually go through in that one, but Acosta still leading this session. Then Jack Miller up to second. 4 riders now, on 29th. Acosta, Miller, Morbidelli and Ralph Fernandez. Actually, fair play to Morbidelli and Ralph Fernandez because they both took heavy blows to various parts of their body in Portugal last weekend. Third and fourth fastest as we get into the time attack modes here.
Why does he really need to step up in these latter stages? Portugal, of course, had his issues. He's 14th. Bagnaia now 19th. He's behind Jorge Martin, who's just put in a 130.4 to go into 18th place. Alex Marquez down in P17 at the moment. I'm sure they will lift themselves up the order when some fresh tyres are being put in, but at the moment, 2 of the top 4 riders in the World Championship unusually low down the order. Certainly indicates Alex Marquez, who of course won the sprint 6 days ago. Near now into the 129th. He goes into 4th place for Honda.
Very well indeed. He's just gone up briefly into 5th now, back in 6th place. Into his run is Joan Zarco on 29.923. Joan gave you so many great points.
I'm amazed by Joan, you know, because the passion of fire burning inside him, and you know, he's
35 now.
30, and he's still fast, you know.
Still very fast, and of course, when we look back on some of our fond memories of 2025, he's got a French Grand Prix in the Mon, which he won with his perfect there. I mean, it was one of the moments of the season for sure.
Oh yeah, Claude Michi, the French Grand Prix organizer, is the master. He predicted the rain announcement at the right time, and that was fantastic one. Fantastic one.
He was the first French rider to win his home French MotoGP race in over 70 years.
Something like that, yeah. I think it's about Mona, yeah, soft Mona. But it's not that magic for us at the moment because Giannini and Maverick are not really in the top 10 at the moment, which is a big shame, and this is what we need to have a good race on Sunday.
Yeah, Bastianini 13th at the moment on a 130.2. He needs to find a 10th of a second from where he is at the moment to get himself into the top 10. Vinales, who of course is riding for the first time competitively for a 4 or 5 Grand Prix since we saw him withdraw in Indonesia. He's currently 21st on a 13.6. Aldeguer turning to Fouchon, but still outside the top 10 at present.
Top ride, some return once again by Martin. He's been so many comebacks already, hasn't he, in 2025? A 130.404 for Martin, a couple of laps to go. Just over a second once again behind Acosta. A couple of likes of Bagnaia, Vinales, Oliveira behind him as well. It's been rather an impressive turn from our now warm-up world champion.
It's really impressive because when you imagine how long he has been riding by, and you jump on a MotoGP bike like that in Valencia with the morning where the track is perfect.
I said yesterday, he's not ridden anything. He hasn't been on 2 wheels since that first corner crash in the sprint in Matei. The first time he was back on 2 wheels was on scooter. He arrived in panic a couple of days ago, showing once again he's a top talent, a top rider, and he will be back at the top surely in 2026 on a competitive back group. Let's go down the jet and get an update on the Martin.
Yeah, looks as though it could be section over for Jorge Martin. Decision taken by the team. Smiles on faces, job done, miles under the belt. They're happy to not go out there and push the limit, although Paolo Norris is coming in my direction. He is going out, Paolo. He's not going out. Okay, session over. There we go. Confirmation from the horse's mouth. job done for Jorge Martin.
Thanks very much, Jack. An excellent job done as well by Jorge Martin. He has gone 1.5 seconds faster compared to his best time this morning. So that's we'll just calmly settled some nerves and more crucially rebuilt some confidence, because this year his confidence must be on the floor after having so many crashes and big injuries.
No, I think it was a really wise decision, and I think he's going to reset and rest, because also the muscle and the body must be tired, because MotoGP Valencia is a difficult mission. And good job, because he wouldn't have been able to be in the top 10 anyway. And I'm glad to see Fabio finally, have everything he needs to push, and keep all his not too bad.
How good Fabio is in time attack mode. Pecco Bagnaia was on course for the top 10 now before he swings back into pit lane. That lap was an estimated 10th place for Bagnaia, and he needs to find some time, because at the moment he's outside the cut-off point at 1:30.154 as he comes back into pit lane. Still leaves Pecco down in 12th.
That 10th place currently being occupied by Marco Bezzecchi. Bagnaia clearly won't be fueled up for those laps given the time that is remaining, but just wanted to push on the in-lap just to see where he could potentially improve. So he looks up at the timing screens. He needs to find minimum a 10th of a second to go on terms with Bezzecchi. Surely he's going to have to get himself into the 29s in the time that remains. The pace is going to continue to increase. Surely the likes of Aldeguer outside the top 10 is likely to improve. Pinder will surely be wanting to get himself in the top 10, but he's down in 19th place at the moment on his factory Honda, which would be a surprise. So with plenty to shake out yet in his final 7 minutes.
Martin is going to venture back out on circuit. Okay, he's having another crack at it then. Pushed out on new tyres. It's not a time attack this. Then thanks very much, Jack, just for saying he's going back out on a well-worn set of rubber. This is not any additional time attack coming in from Martin.
He did say yesterday when I spoke to him, maybe I won't bother going for a time attack, because remember, he does have a double long lap penalty to serve as well on Sunday afternoon in the Grand Prix for his part in the collision which caused the injury when he wiped out his teammate Bezzecchi in the Motegi sprint. So 2 long laps to come on Sunday afternoon, so he knows that his Grand Prix is going to be spent probably largely at the back of the field on Sunday, but he is not really in the results business here this weekend.
It's 2 long laps, so welcome back, Jorge, from Spain. Perfectly justified, of course, after he did plough into Marco Bezzecchi in that first corner instance in the sprint in Japan. So work to do for Bagnaia, work to do for Aldeguer as well. 22 minutes, I would say. 2023 as mentioned. Bezzecchi has a little trouble-free session for the Italian. He was on the floor very early on at turn 4. Right, and that 1:30.066 has got Bezzecchi right in the danger zone. The wrong end of this top 10. At the moment, though, crucially, he is in the top 10.
Let's follow Bezzecchi then into turn 2. Would be an almighty surprise even if he's 10th, let alone if he's out of the top 10. Strong first sector for Marco, who now makes his way to turn 4. He'll be giving this corner his due care and attention to what happened earlier into 5 then. So Ralph Fernandez is also setting impressive sector times up the road. Bezzecchi now approaches turn 6, where he'll find a relatively slow-moving Alex Marquez in the way. Alex is going to be careful to keep himself well out of the way. He is on an lap at the moment on board the 73. So coming together quite nicely this for Bezzecchi. Currently on a 30.0. He needs to get himself into the 29s and well into the 29s to be quite comfortable. Fernandez takes 6th place. So at the moment we've got a Frias in 6th and 10th. Bezzecchi now, round turn 11. Long lap penalty zone on your left. Now approach the sort of medium straight into 12. And this at the moment on target is to slot into that 3:10 gap between Acosta and Alex Marquez.
All the talks pre-weekend with Maverick. He was obviously confident he was going to be able to complete the full 3 days, but was there a discussion if he was in too much pain, too much discomfort? I guess there was. You could go around, maybe just focus on the Tuesdays. Let's spend the moment, obviously, together some pretty competitive lap times. What was that consideration?
No, he was ready to go to Portimao, but at the end of the day, we thought we better give him another week for him to be close to 100%, and really the target is to do the full Valencia Grand Prix, and of course the very important Tuesday test. So doesn't matter what the performance is going to be, he wants to do more and more laps because this is so special in Italian. No question, we're going to
As possible. Nicola Budiga Marquez has just found his best time at the opening day, a very respectable 1:30.552 from there we go. Just for all looking forward to that Tuesday test. The throws in 2026 Velocity Top Rank Razgatlioglu make his public debut on the tarmac at Yamaha. Bagnaia then just creep into the top 10. He's found a 1:29.847, which has pushed him up to 9th.
Watch this one from Malaysia Spargo. Oh, just misses out in that final sector. He was on course for Q2 and potentially bumping me around on Honda at 29.9 for Malaysia Spargo. Not enough. 30.0 not enough for Ayagura. And we've got riders ahead of him in the order also going very quickly. Jack Miller now into the top 3 as he cements his status as top Yamaha so far today.
Second, of course, for P1. On board now then with the Italian. Through the final corner we go. Then he'll pick up the throttle now then. Start winding up through the signature gearbox. Not very often around. Well, it's just here on the start entry when the riders hit top gear. Seki just missing out at 1:29.293. Sees the gap cut down to Acosta just under 600ths of a second. Acosta still with the advantage here. Practice Friday in Valencia. Mir now to 6th.
Yeah, I had the carries again, back down to 10th. Could that now become 11th? It does, as Brad Binder gets himself buried into the 29s. 1:29.729 for Binder. So at the moment, both in fact KTM's heading through.
That's NAMSG leading for Tech 3 riders. He's down in 17th place at the moment. NAMSG is going through.
Because since for the last run I'm checking and it's all grey helmet. It's first the yellow helmet.
Detect the sense of frustration in your voice there a little bit.
A lot of frustration. I don't understand.
Vinales has just put in his best time of the session at 1:30.147 has dragged Maverick up into P16. That's just under a second away. Alexa Spargo just outside of the top 10. Agura now third. Brilliant job by Ayagura. So we've got 2 of these inside the top 3. Bensiki and now Agura briefly in the top 3 before they now jumped up into third.
Impressive like that from Ayagura. Aldeguer, his fellow rookie, he's just done his personal best with only 16 on a 29.9. So at the moment, we've got Fernandez down to 11, Bagnaia 13, Zarco 14, Aldeguer 16. All Grand Prix winners this season, all missing the top 10 cut-off at the moment.
At the moment is 7th, proceeding for whoever line that doesn't. Is that 1:29.593 good enough for Dylan to have 70 seconds of this session remaining? The final Friday in 2025 about to be in the box here. Alex Marquez now 4. He's got down to 1:29.473. Bagnaia needs to find some time, big time here, doesn't he? Not happening at the moment on this current lap for Pecco Bagnaia. 13th place as it stands right now.
He might have heard you, but he is now setting personal best sector time for him. They're going to put him into the top 10. But it could at least lift him up from his current P19.
Not really. And 0.7 after P3.
Bagnaia on his last flying lap, but he needs a big lap here. 1:29.833 from the Italian outside of the top 10. Down in 13th place, Agura surely isn't safe with his 1:29.555.
Aldeguer is coming. Aldeguer is coming.
Yeah, Aldeguer they're now negotiating the final call. He might just creep over the line. In fact, he will do only for one more lap here. There's going to be about 7 or 8 seconds remaining from Aldeguer over the line. Up into 8, 1:29.597. Is that going to be good enough? Yeah, the boss likes it.
Aldeguer is happy.
No, it's one MotoGP team boss that we can see.
The story is unbelievable. You invite me another time and I will tell you a story.
I did longer than a 1 hour session for that one. Egan Benteke then checker flag is out. Pedro Acosta's 29.2, which he set a while ago in fairness, and still put him on top. But no, he's been out there doing time attacks at the end. He's comfortably put this. Quartararo is approaching the checker flag. He's 10th at the moment. This should sink. This place doesn't. He misses out the final sector, so he will now be looking over his shoulder.
Vinales are going to have bragging rights on Friday inside Tech 3 KTM. It's over for Pecco Bagnaia. Pecco Bagnaia once again is in Q1. Some good jobs, some really good jobs in that session. Acosta's going to be fast, it's quite a bit late on for Marco Bezzecchi, or that's how hard Bez was pushing to try and find the best time of day 1. Second place, so despite a crash in turn 4 in that practice session, a good job by Bez. Morbidelli third. Here's the crash in turn 5.
Before I leave, Matt, Pedro Acosta first, Bezzecchi second, two ex-Tech 3 riders.
Two ex-Tech 3 riders. Once again, you're sprinkling some magic around the MotoGP paddock. And on that note, now that session is over. Hervé, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for you. Thank you to you. Thank you for your kind words, man. Really touched me. And same Ryan, thank you to all the MotoGP fans and everybody who is following MotoGP with you.
Enjoy the remainder of this farewell Grand Prix.
I will. Thank you very much, and see you very soon for another story.
Don't be a stranger. Our door is always open for you in the Comstock. Remember, you're back. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hervé Poncharal, Academy legend. Thank you very much, Hervé. We'll see you soon, I'm sure, in a not too distant future. Fantastic then to get Hervé to join us as a special guest here in the Comstock. So I'm sure, as myself and Lewis did here in the booth, all of you watching at home certainly enjoyed. Let's stay with the KTM theme as I almost give a left hook to Mr. Poncharal as he's departing the commentary box. Quite literally leaving the back. Okay, right. Sales Jack. Let's go back down in Finland. Take it away, chap.
Thank you. I'll let you guys embrace Hervé, and I'll chat to Paul after arguably it's Friday of the season. I mean, Pedro, he looks fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's just a continuation of what we've been building up, and yeah, like you said, for sure, the amount of quality laps we put in today, and he looks really good out there, to be honest. Looks really calm, and he's focused. It's really looking really good.
Yeah, good on race rhythm, fast on the time attack.
Yeah.
You must be confident going into the rest of the weekend.
I mean, it's the best way to start. You know, you see, it's not only the one lap; it's how we put the whole thing together, which makes me really, really confident. Yeah.
Good luck for the rest of it.
Cheers, buddy.
Another superb performance by Pedro Acosta. Alex Marquez, the only rider on the grid to have participated now in all Q2 sessions in 2025. Something for Alex to be proud of. They're having a bit of a laugh and a joke, aren't they, down in the factory in Brilliant team, because Marco Bezzecchi taking that move spell at turn 4. Great job by him in 4th place. There's some really good rides actually in that session. Acosta will of course will run their lines and rightfully so fastest. Bezzecchi after a fall second. Frankie Morbidelli just 5 days after a nasty crash at turn 5 on lap 1 in Portimao. He's 3rd fastest. Ayagura picking up some top form late on in this season. He's 5th. Jack Miller's 6th and the fastest Yamaha. Great job by the Australian. The Gian Antonio Aldeguer, Mir and Quattararo then gone directly into Q2. Missing out by a wrist. He's picked up in 11th, just half a 10th back. 5th Q1 appearance in the last 11 Grand Prix. Ecco Bagnaia, that does not make for pretty reading, doesn't it, for the Italian as he sort of glares at the screen inside the Ducati Lenovo garage. Bagnaia in that session. In 14th place, wasn't a million miles back of that top 10, to be fair to him. Just over a tenth of a second back. We mentioned this morning how tight competition can be around this compact Ricardo Tormo circuit. Well, poor Alex Rins stands 17th place, who's just a whisker outside of 3/4 of a second behind Acosta, but nowhere near Q2. That's how close it was as Pedro Acosta delivers once again a top-notch performance, doesn't he, on the factory KTM. No wonder he's getting another great reception. Sebastian Rees there, the technical figure behind the scenes, affording Matt and Hoffen factory. The IO, the team manager, just waiting there in the background. 129.240 then. That's put Pedro Acosta top of our final Friday of 2025.
Has the bit between his teeth this weekend. But it's not going to be easy for him to claim that first MotoGP victory because, as Matt mentioned, the field behind him super close, but it did appear as if Acosta had a little bit in hand there at the end of that session. Good return to form in some respects for Frankie Morbidelli, who has missed Q2 at 3 of the last 4 Grand Prix and actually been in 4 of the last 5 Q1 sessions. He won't be in it tomorrow, though.
Yeah, that's a really good job, that, by Morbidelli. Who once again got a little bit of
The 1:29.240, quickest by half a tenth, but in many respects it felt like he was more dominant than that. Penseki took second ahead of Morbidelli, was then scratched early on. Alex Marquez fourth ahead of Iagura, who recovered from his own crash to take a spot in fifth. Miller sixth ahead of Gian Antonio Aldeguer, Mir and Quattararo, despite clear problems with his Yamaha early in the session. He recovered to complete the top 10. Q1 then tomorrow will feature Binder, Ralph Fernandez, Aleix Spargo, Bagnaia at 14. Ahead of Zarco, Marini, Rins, Vinales and Bastianini. Just off Fernandez on the lead by Yamaha. 20th, just a second off the pace, ahead of Oliveira on the inline for Martin, who did go at the end of used tyres 22nd ahead of Songam Chantra. And Nico Grudiger introduced to the harsh world of MotoGP, just 1.3 seconds off the pace from P24.
Yeah, mega time wasn't it there? Bastianini getting 19th place, but not even a second behind fellow KTM rider Pedro Acosta. It's tied to the top, it's covered the top, that's for sure, in MotoGP. As we get set to bid farewell to 2025. Costa then on for 9.240, best time of the opening day here. Ricardo Turbine circuit. Long first run down that hard foot soft rear tyre from Pedro Acosta. A lot of the race information gathered from the Spaniard. When he was out fresh from at the end of the session, he won that third, but not the last one. Where he put in that
He crucially did find the 29.2 himself when it mattered to take second.
Frankie Morbidelli fast in Valencia. Third fastest, 1:29.425. Good strong lane end to the session for Frankie. Middle of that fourth, one a brand new soft rear tyre. Cruising in for Q2.
Alex Marquez doing the same. He did all of his work on the hard front medium rear combination, putting plenty of laps on it. On the half-race distance, of course, stitching across to some brand new tyres at the end. And Alex Marquez playing fourth place.
He was quick in the splits, marking about second. He was set for one. Stays just ahead of me and Acosta.
Maintaining his advantage in 72. Morbidelli and Alex Marquez hot on his heels.
In the infield section, Pedro Acosta making the KTM work. Not by much ahead of a good around Penseki.
Yeah, well, the first half of the lap belongs to Penseki and Aprilia. The second half of the lap clearly belongs to Costa and KTM.
Well, that is day one in the books here in our final Grand Prix. The 2025 MotoGP World Championship. We really hope you enjoyed taking the KTM boss Hervé Poncharal joining us and his emotional farewell weekend in the MotoGP World Championship. It's one of his former riders, one of his former stars, takes the star performance on day one. Pedro Acosta, is this the weekend when he breaks his winning up in MotoGP? Acosta is fastest on our final Friday of 2025.
Bye.